On April 1st, an animal research facility was broken into in the middle of the night. In the morning, it was discovered that the 14 beagles, subject in toxicology experiments, had been removed from the lab. Police clashed with protesters at the lab days later, but to date, no one has ever been arrested for the break-in.
The Animal Liberation Front can be anybody at any time. If you abide by 4 guidelines and your actions are guided by your conscience to help animals, you're the Animal Liberation Front. The Animal Liberation Front consists of anybody from school teachers to clergy to lay people to lawyers to doctors to students, anybody that goes out in an autonomous cell and they commit a so-called crime to help animals. That's the Animal Liberation Front.
The Animal Liberation Front isn't a group in the traditional sense of the word. There's no official membership, there's no headquarters, no leadership, no newsletter. What the ALF is a set of 4 guidelines, and people who carry out actions in accordance with those 4 guidelines can consider themselves ALF members. The first guideline is to liberate animals from places of abuse, like the 14 beagles who were liberated from Huntington Life Sciences, and to place those animals in good homes where they can live out the rest of their lives free of suffering. The second guideline is to inflict economic damage on companies who profit from abusing animals. 500 animals a day are dying inside Huntington Life Sciences because it's profitable, because there's money to be made. Economic sabotage seeks to remove that profit motivation. The third guideline is to reveal the atrocities committed against animals behind closed doors. If someone were to abuse an animal the way they're abusing Huntington Life Sciences on Main Street, that person would be locked up, possibly placed in a mental institution. There's a reason that animal abuse takes place where it does, behind locked doors, behind barbed wire fences. ALF actions give the public a rare opportunity to see behind those locked doors and see what really happens to animals inside laboratories like Huntington Life Sciences.
We wish we didn't have to break into the labs, but something has to be done to save the animals from the pain. There are no laws in this country to protect animals in laboratories, not even laws that require painkillers. We couldn't just sit by while we knew breeches and other animals were being cut up and tormented every single day by people who just don't care. We really had to get them out. Even if we can rescue only a few, at least we've stopped their suffering.
The fourth guideline is to ensure that no humans or animals are hurt during an ALF action. Throughout the course of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of actions all over the world, there's yet to be a single reported injury, and that's not a coincidence.
In over 25 years that the Animal Liberation Front has been active both in the US and the UK, they have never injured or harmed any animal, human or non-human.
The men and women of the Animal Liberation Front risk their own freedom in order to expose these atrocities that are happening behind HLS's doors, including heavy jail terms and fines.
The Animal Liberation Front has been vital to the animal rights movement, not only in directly saving animals' lives, but in bringing people behind the closed doors of vivisection laboratories and showing them the reality of what goes on there.
The raiders believe the pictures are proof animal experimentation is inherently cruel.
Oh my God.
7 people were arrested in the raid and charged with burglary. The tape was smuggled out of the building and distributed to the news media.
Beginning in the 1980s, through video released by the ALF, people saw the reality of animal testing. And they know that animal testing means rabbits with their eyes pried open and toxic chemicals poured in, cats with their heads cut open and electrodes attached to their brains, monkeys with metal devices bolted onto their skulls. The ALF set the precedent that the best way to convince people animal testing is unacceptable is by letting them see it with their own 2 eyes. Obviously, to obtain the truth in these situations is illegal, thus it falls upon the Animal Liberation Front.
In April, the ALF rescued 14 beagles from inside of Huntington Life Sciences from a life full of terror. If they were to stay inside of Huntington Life Sciences, every day of their lives they would be victims of terrorism. Toxins forced into their stomach, being poisoned day in and day out. Forced to live in the tiny cages filled with their own congealed blood, vomit, and diarrhea, wasting away until they finally died. The Animal Liberation Front rescued those animals out of terrorism.
Huntington Life Sciences is one of the world's biggest product testing labs. There's 3 labs to the company. 2 are in England and 1 here in America. They do product testing for some of the world's biggest pharmaceutical and agrochemical companies like Monsanto, Bayer, DuPont, Eli Lilly, Mariel, Roche, and they do product testing for things like agrochemicals, household products like oven cleaners, nail polish removers, sweeteners, food colorings, detergents, washing powders, tanning lotions. And they kill about 500 animals every day, 180,000 a year, which include puppies, monkeys, rabbits, mice, guinea pigs, you name it. HLS will test any product on any animal for any company. That's the nature of their business. And they've been investigated 5 times for animal cruelty, dating as far back as 1981, when a woman from the British Union Against Vivisection went inside and took photographs.
In 1997, an undercover investigator by the name of Michelle Roque, who was working for the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, went undercover inside of Huntington Life Sciences labs in East Millstone, New Jersey. During her time as a lab worker, as a lab technician, she uncovered numerous instances of extreme animal cruelty. Some included workers punching 4-month-old beagle puppies in the face, the dissection of a live monkey. Unsanitary living conditions included vomit and feces not being cleaned from the cages, biological waste being left in the caged areas. In addition, instances of animal cruelty included Michelle being told not to report injuries to animals to the veterinarian. She witnessed several instances of bleeding. After Michelle Roque's investigation footage and documentation was released to the public, the nation basically went up in an uproar. They were shocked and terrified at what they saw and read. After a lot of public pressure, dozens of beagles were adopted out who were slated to have their legs broken in drug safety tests.
The reason the ALF carries out these actions is because they're the most simple and logical thing to do. If an animal is being tortured,
Fucking hell! I'm really getting fucking mad with you! Every fucking time point!
to take that animal out of the hands of the person who's abusing it and place them in a good and loving home is the most logical way to save that animal's life. Traditional methods of protest, petitions, letter writing, etc., they might have an effect in the long term, but for the animals who are being tortured today, for the animals who are slated to die tomorrow, they just simply don't have the time to wait. That's the reason the ALF carries out these raids, and if I was the one inside the cage, if I was the one being tortured, I know what I would want the people who cared about me to do, and it wouldn't be letter writing, it wouldn't be protests, it wouldn't be petition signing. I would want them to do the most they could to save my life then and there.
In addition to the April liberation of beagles at Huntington Life Sciences labs, the Animal Liberation Front has also targeted the lab's breeders of beagles. In November 1999, interfauna facilities were targeted by the Animal Liberation Front, during which 71 beagles were liberated. In addition to that, in December of 2001, 30 beagles and 10 ferrets were liberated from Marshall Farms in upstate New York. The Animal Liberation Front has played a very important role in Huntington Life Sciences campaign. They've been able to show the public the faces behind the experiments, been able to show that these animals have feelings, have a capacity for thought, for happiness and for pain, and that they're not just numbers like HLS would like for you to believe.
Many people now regard the ALF as heroes willing to risk their own freedom and their lives to do what they know in their heart to be right.
It bugs me when the terrorist label is applied to the people that are in the Animal Liberation Front, because their motives are compassion, they're moved by their heart, and they're doing what their conscience tells them they have to. And I think terrorists are the people that are sinister and are doing evil acts, such as, the people that work inside the lab that, cut apart the animals while they're still alive, taunt them while they're suffering. The worker inside HLS in New Jersey named Brian Crane, who spelled out his own name in a monkey's blood on a necropsy table, those people are the terrorists. They're terrorizing the small animals. The Animal Liberation Front is trying to save them from that terror. I think using that terrorist label also demeans and diminishes the real terrorists in the world, or it hurts the victims of real terrorist attacks, like the friends and families that had loved ones lost in the World Trade Center. To have the terrorist label equally applied to people who are trying to save puppies from torture, also applied to people that fly, planes into buildings, really diminishes their pain, and I think it's inappropriate and callous.
The ALF has been criticized in the past because of the illegal nature of their actions. We have to ask ourselves which is more important, morality or legality, doing what we know to be right or doing what the law tells us is right. Anyone seeing what goes on in laboratories like Huntington Life Sciences would be hard-pressed to say that the laws that allow these companies to exist and profit off that torture are just, or that the people who are willing to risk their freedom to end those atrocities are truly criminals.
I like to compare, who is the real terrorist in terms of just this HLS campaign. Is it the people that risk their lives and their freedom going into the lab in the middle of the night and taking these animals out to give them a good home? Or is it the people working in the lab, like Brian Crane, who cut out a beagle puppy's heart and sent it to his girlfriend for Valentine's Day? And then a week later, cut out a beagle puppy's eyes and sent it to his girlfriend again, this time with the card saying, "I've only got eyes for you." Who's the real terrorist in that situation? I personally define terrorism as the use of terror, pain, hurt, violence as a means of achieving your goals. When I see an animal that's suffering in a laboratory, I see terror in the animal's eyes, I see pain in that animal's eyes, and I see the goals of the people that are testing on that animal to make money. I view that as terror. When the Animal Liberation Front broke into the lab, and when campaigns that are targeting Huntington Life Sciences across the world are often condemned for the kind of tactics they use because it's just applying to animals.
The Animal Liberation Front is often paralleled to another group who realized they had no choice but to risk their freedom and break the law in order to save the lives of those seen merely as property of another. Under cover of darkness, they transported them to freedom and safety. Harriet Tubman and other members of the Underground Railroad are now regarded as heroes for breaking anti-slavery laws and bringing African American slaves to freedom. Some believe the Animal Liberation Front will one day be held in the same regard.
People accuse the campaign to shut down Huntington Life Sciences to be a terror campaign, when that's the farthest thing from the truth. The campaign is filled with dedicated and compassionate people who are trying to stop terrorism. This is being done in a lot of different ways, from letter writing, phone calling, faxing, targeting the financial institutions that keep Huntington Life Sciences afloat, protesting at the lab day in and day out. Some people felt that what's going on inside of Huntington Life Sciences is such an extreme act of terrorism that they felt the need to break a law to save lives, and that's exactly what happened in April. One could extend the definition of terrorism to include repression of people's freedoms, freedom of speech, and freedom to act to try to end tyranny. The agencies protecting HLS and its financial institutions have beaten protesters. They've attempted to use barricades to silence people's objections to the lab, but people have proven their determination to end the misery in Huntington Life Sciences by standing up to this intimidation and continuing to fight with their hearts, even if it's not always with the law.
In a lifetime,